he went to medical school and completed it and went to the Dominican and had opened a clinic and provided for people, good people. A great couple that we've known for years, supported, been down there, Sue and I, and even before I helped build a clinic with them. Let me tell you a quick story about this. It was, I think I was in Bible college or just getting out, and this clinic, I was there to help lay blocks. Didn't know much about construction at the time. I'm sure I could do a better job today. But I was there, and we were laying blocks, building this clinic in church in La Vega, I think the name of the city was. Then I saw all these Dominicans around, and they were looking at us. And I thought, I should be the one drinking coffee, and they should be the one working. I should be, and I was joking a little bit, I was younger. So I went and took some money in my pocket and got some change, and I started to hand out 5s and 10s or something like that, or dollars, and asking them if they wanted to help us. Then the roles got turned a little bit. I sat there and had my Dominican coffee while they worked. We paid them, and I thought, this is a more sufficient way to build. They know much more about their area than I do, but I was so glad to be there. But this couple, the wife passed away. They have ties here to the Chicagoland region, and a church that I'm familiar with was helping them out. But this lady came down with some kind of illness, and her kidney failed and went on dialysis. Matter of fact, someone else that we knew gave her a kidney, another pastor's wife that they knew. I don't want to go on about this because I want to get to the message. But it failed. And for the last 10 years, she's been on dialysis, struggling. Recently, well, a few years back, her husband came down with bladder cancer. Just recently, the last several weeks, it came back. And it's inoperable. What I'm getting at, it's been a trial. They'd come here to the church. We lived up front and sit for a few hours. We always talked, and we always gave them a check when they would come once or twice a year. But going to the funeral, I found myself being sad. Coming back home here, I began to talk to Sue in the kitchen and say, man, life's short. Life's funny. Here's a couple that probably don't have a lot to their name, given everything, and one just passed away struggling for years, devoted their life, and now one who came to his wife's funeral in a wheelchair, and weak, you could tell. And I came away from there saying, what is life all about? Does it really matter if you help people? Does it really matter if you do things and then end up this way? Then I found myself in the book of Ecclesiastes. I'm sure I had to have taken the course in Bible college or you couldn't pass, but don't remember really reading it much. But I started reading it to see if there's some answers for you and I today. I don't know what you've been through in life, but I bet you've been through some things. Oh, I gave a elongated story and shared a little bit. There's much more, but you get the picture. You've had similar things in your life. You've had things happen to you. You've had unjust things come your way. You've had pain, you've had hurt. You've experienced some things. You've been through some things in life. Well, for me, talking to Sue, at one point, I said, Sue, man, when I pass away, there probably no one will show up, maybe 10 people. Sue said, don't talk that way. And I found myself getting down and going down that road a little bit, reflecting upon this person's situation. Then I found myself as once again reading Ecclesiastes, and I started thinking, okay, what Solomon is saying I could relate to, but it wasn't getting me anywhere. And I was looking for the punchline. I was looking for it to take me up a little bit because I know there's more to the story of life. Then finally I got to the end of chapter 2, and I said, there it is. Sue found some other good nuggets in the other few chapters, but I was content with what I found, and that's what I want to share with you today. While on earth, how are you supposed to conduct yourself? We're not talking about heaven, for heaven is our reward. Some say, absent from the body, you're immediately in the presence of God. Others say, there's Thessalonians, others say that you sleep. And then, when the trump sounds, the dead in Christ shall rise first. So there's debate among all scholars. But either way, it's really the same. Because if it's the dead in Christ shall rise first, if you sleep, when you awake, you're in the presence of God. So whether there's some gap in between, maybe we don't know, maybe you know. Some in our family, John David just went through Bible college. He's emphatic on one, and now the older I'm getting, I could see both ways. But that's not what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about, is everything meaningless in your life? Or is there something greater that God is bringing in your life? While on earth, how are you supposed to conduct yourself? Let me read the scripture that I was talking about a moment ago. Chapter 2, verses 23, 24, and 25. A man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. This too, I see, is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of, I cut out because it really wasn't applicable, the rest of verse 26. Solomon, prior to this, began to say, the things we put in, we're always going to be craving. We're always going to be wanting to hear more. And he seems to be having a dialogue of feelings. Solomon is the author of the book of Proverbs. In the high of his day, he penned Proverbs. He was astute. He had a grasp on things and a teacher. Well, when Ecclesiastes came along, Solomon reigned, known as the wisest person in the world, son of David. And he was now penning words at the end of his life or the end of his reign, and he was thinking out loud. Feelings. And he began to share that. Is it all worth it? As a matter of fact, he says, there's nothing new under the sun. He talks about a lot of different things. Reading it yesterday, I said, man, this is where I'm at right now, coming home from a funeral. But then these words, he shifts a little bit. And he talks out loud, then he puts a period to it. 3 things. While on this earth, your remaining days, what should it look like for you? We're not talking once again about heaven because that's something that we don't know about completely, but it's our reward. And that's something that we look forward to. And we're not diminishing it, but we're wanting to know how we should act today. We're needing to know how we need to get along today. God has us here today. As long as you have breath, God has you on the earth. Tomorrow, That's heaven. Going home to Jesus, that's heaven. And that's your reward. But let's talk about, is everything meaningless while on earth? Number one, while on earth, you need to find satisfaction in your work. Where do you get that now, Pastor? Well, it's clear. It says, find satisfaction in your work. What am I saying? As long as you have breath, you need to be doing something. I know it's a different point, but let me help you with this. We're talking about while on earth, is everything meaningless? Solomon was a worker. He built things. He was a constructor. I could relate to that. Been down that road several times. Don't look at this story bad. I remember when Sue and I got married. She's going to shoot me. No, she isn't. I remember, you know how it leads up. We were young. I think we were 22. I just was graduating from Bible college. I think I was doing my internship, and that's where we went afterwards. But we were on the airplane. We were going to Corpus Christi. Don't know how I could afford an airplane ticket at that time, but I must have been able to. But we were there, and I remember leaning over. Can't remember a lot, but I remember leaning over and said, wow, is that all there is to this? Ooh, she was mad. I had a hard time convincing her to marry me. Once I caught her and once I was married, like I fell into a type of depression on the airplane. Leading up to it, you know, I was excited, wearing the white suit back then, and I don't know how they looked back then, and getting in the limo. It was great until everybody went home. And I was on the airplane just with her, and I found myself getting a little unexcited, depressed, and I said, is this what marriage is about? And I started thinking a little bit, and Sue says, what are you talking about? She slapped me. No, she didn't. So here we go. Everyone has to find satisfaction. Where'd that come from? I don't know. I was just an illustration. You got to find satisfaction. You know, a lot of people, I guess if you have money, some go south for the winter. Many that have worked 30 years, 35, 25, they find themselves coming back because they go down there and they sit, or they don't find a hobby and they get bored. I've known many, or some even pass away a little bit too early because life doesn't have meaning. So Solomon tells you and I, while on earth, keep purpose. Whether it be a hobby, whether it be something you got to do. Even I was thought about, but God, when I was preparing, what happens if a person's laying on their back? And I know some hospitalized. My father-in-law, Sue's dad, suffered a stroke. So sad. Can't walk, and a great guy and a believer that came up out of the Catholic Church, and very thankful for him. But now, to see him, it's like I leave when I visit him and your heart breaks. Can't do much. But I thought of it. Even then, if something like that takes over your life, there's something, maybe pray for someone. Maybe as this person, this missionary, when he went through his first bladder cancer, but he was a doctor and he started to pen poems. He wrote a little poem book while he was bedridden. What am I saying? Keep purpose a part of your life. You could pray for someone. You could send a little note. But he says here, you need to find satisfaction in your work. You need to find it. The second thing, you need to keep God in your life. Where do I get that? For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? These are nothing more than 3 simple points to help you and I in our days here on earth. To fight against maybe a type of depression or feeling like what's going on in my life, is it worth it? I don't know, is everything meaningless? And that's really the topic of Ecclesiastes. He answers the question, and he's answering it here. He answers it along the way. And he says, without him. So he establishes that we need God at the center. Go ahead with the this is the solar system. That's the sun. Did you know that everything revolves around the sun? I didn't do too well in high school. As a matter of fact, I dropped out early. Did go to Bible college. I always say that. So I don't remember much of science. Don't even know if I was ever in the class. But I started learning a little bit about the solar system. Everything revolves around the sun. Did you know we get all our gravity from the sun? Did you know that our whole system revolves around the sun being in place and everything around it? That's your walk with God. That's God in you. So often we get things out of kilter, and they tell us that if anything changes here, if something happens, you'll have complete cold on one side and hot on the other side of the earth. But because everything revolves around it, it keeps it in balance. Since I'm an astute, what do you call those people that know about up there? Yeah, since am I that? I'm not astrologist. I think I am now. But even the moon keeps a check on the sun and the moon. That's why maybe when Jesus was born, they talked about it. But it's fascinating. But here's what I want to say. The sun has its place. And what I want to say, Jesus has a place in your life. And you always got to keep him at the center, no matter where you're at. The devil's going to try to pull. The devil's going to try to get you to go another way, to quit church, to quit believing God. The devil is always trying to mess your life up. But you are tasked with staying in the place, keeping God where he's supposed to be in your life. And I think part of our problem is many times we push the sun out of the way. Many times we think we can live without, and we bring despair in our life. So you could take it back. We're talking about is everything meaningless, and we're asking the question and trying to answer it this morning. And we're saying, while on earth, find satisfaction in what you do. Find satisfaction in doing something for the Lord, and something with your hands. Stay busy doing something. Number two, we need to keep God in our lives. He needs to be at the center of your solar system, of your life. Or you're going to find discontentment. You're going to find that, wow, you're going to go to other things. Come back to that where he's the center. The third thing, we need to please God with our actions. To the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom. What I'm saying is the things you do, how you conduct your affairs, how you live your life does matter. How you talk to people. What I'm saying, the third thing that we need to do while on earth, we need to please God. I heard that today in Lakewood in our worship. I think it was Joel that was sharing. But I like it. One, we need to find satisfaction in doing something. If your life, you feel like it's hitting a wall, try doing something for the Lord maybe. Try being the hands and feet of Jesus. You'll find satisfaction. Our sister brought us a meal this week. Thank you for that. But I'm sure she finds satisfaction. Oh, I find satisfaction in eating it, thank you. But whenever you show kindness, that's a good thing. Number 2, keep God at the center. I don't know wherever you're at in life, what season, you can keep God at the center. Even if you've been broken, even if you've been hurting, keep God at the center of your solar system. You'll do better in life. I didn't say it'll always be easy. I didn't say everything will always go great. No. We still have floods. We still have problems. So there's things that come up, but we get through it. And God is still with us. Well, the third thing we need to do is keep pleasing God with our actions. And then God will give. I don't know about you. I need God's favor this week. I need God to release something out of his hand for me. I lack wisdom. I'm not the smartest cookie in the cookie jar. I need God to help me. So I need God to always be releasing something, helping me. That's why it's important. If it's all about you, why would God keep doing this? But if you're always about this, God's going to keep giving you. Well, God gives wisdom, knowledge. I don't know. I just think it's wise to try to please God. Not that he needs it, it's just the right way of living. It's the best way of living. And it does bring good results. So I do conclude with this. Is everything meaningless? No, it's not. It's tough at times, it's hard. Don't even understand everything. When you look at it at face value, you can get discouraged looking at your life, what you've been through, where you're at. But you can climb out of that. And you can become productive again. You could start winning in life again. You could start being the person that God has called you to be. While on this earth, I just think that Solomon, the wisest guy, he was about the richest at the time too, had some good words for you and I. I'm glad he didn't stop in the first, and I'm glad he didn't, when he was talking about nothing matters, the theme, what he was sharing, he didn't stop there. He went on to say, nah, God's where it's at. And I concluded after the funeral, I concluded that, okay, life still does have meaning. I can go on from here. Even if I come one day to the end and I'm on my deathbed, I thought of this. What would I say to my kids? How would I portray? You know what I would say? I would say, hey, don't think of the past. And that's something I was going to share earlier, but don't think, just get on and keep living your life. Do these 3 things. Don't go backwards. Keep going forward in God. Let's bow our heads. God, we love you. Is life a mystery? Sure looks at it sometimes. But we want to say we love you. And we thank you. I'm asking a blessing on your people today. I'm asking for divine favor. I'm asking for God to shine big and bright in their life this week. Open a door. Bless in some way, I pray.